We stood tall and we stood firm in response to Donald Trump's recklessness. And tonight, after poking the bear, this bear roared with an unprecedented turnout in a special election with an extraordinary result.
That was California Governor Gavin Newsom last night after voters overwhelmingly approved a measure that allows the state's legislature to redraw its congressional districts, flipping up to 5 seats to Democrats, or at least favoring them, right, in next year's midterm election. It is known as Prop 50, was introduced in response to the new Texas congressional map, which Republicans drew up at Donald Trump's request, taking 5 seats away from Democrats, and which had no mass Democratic, small d Democratic input, right? The voters never ratified it. The legislature just did it. Well, today, California Republicans sued to stop the state from moving forward with redistricting, saying it's unfair, even as their party seeks to gerrymander other red states. Republicans are pretty much committed now to picking their voters rather than letting the voters pick or not pick them. This year, 4 Republican-controlled states have already redrawn their maps at Trump's direction: Texas, Missouri, Ohio, and North Carolina, which is a 50-50 state, basically, in elections, flipping 9 seats to Republicans, at least in theory. Now, the proposed Democratic maps in California would put a significant dent in those natural Republican gains. It would cancel out Texas, as you see there. That was the plan. But nobody's talking about stopping there. So Republicans in Indiana, Nebraska, Kansas, and Florida are all at least exploring redder congressional maps, again, at Trump's behest. Now, many democratically controlled states are talking about responding in kind the way California has. We are basically, thanks to Donald Trump, in a gerrymandering arms race. And there's no mystery as to why. House Speaker Mike Johnson laid it out today after last night's drubbing. Redistricting, controlling the maps, is how Republicans think they will win.
And I think the midterm is going to be a great one for us. We had a demographic shift in 2024. We have a very favorable election map on the Republican side, and it will be even more favorable once all the redistricting stuff is settled out.
Oh, it'll be even more favorable after you change the maps? But after what we saw at the polls, I'm also not so sure redistricting alone is going to be enough for them. If you are pulling supporters from a deep red district to make another district red, you end up with 2 less red districts. And ultimately, you can't actually guarantee, right, that your Republican MAGA voters from the last election will turn out for you again or vote for you again. You don't get to actually tell people how to vote. It could backfire. If voters are angry enough at your party like they were last night, you could lose, say, both new red districts. In fact, political scientists have a word for that, dummy mandering, they call it. Now, sophisticated models make it harder and harder to breach those walls, right? But dumb or not, this is how Republicans are telling us they're going to win. We are going to draw the line so that you can't touch us. And as Newsom said last night, they're going to be opposed.
We need the state of Virginia. We need the state of Maryland. We need our friends in New York, in Illinois, in Colorado. We need to see other states with the remarkable leaders that have been doing remarkable things meet this moment head on as well.
Mark Elias is one of the people fighting this in the front lines, waging voting rights and redistricting lawsuits all over the country. He's also the founder of the Democracy Docket, and he joins me now. Mark, it is a sort of crazy arms race. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. The result last night at California, is just as a political reporter for years, I've never seen people come out in those numbers with that kind of margin for it. Have you ever seen like a process-based ballot measure that was sort of this narrow and this last minute in some ways have the kind of galvanizing effect as last night's did?
Never. And by the way, Chris, kudos to you. You pointed something out that I think has really gone unremarked. This was not a low turnout affair. I mean, it wasn't a low turnout affair in New Jersey or New York or Virginia, and it wasn't a low turnout affair in California either. And so this was not a situation in which you had very few people voting and, you just had quirky things happen. This was, as you say, an energized electorate that made a decision that they had had enough and that they were going to stand up for democracy. In California, it's not just that it was high turnout for what you call a process, but think about it. If I had told you a year ago that there would be a ballot initiative in California to undo a nonpartisan commission map and put in place a partisan map, you would have told me I was crazy. If I had also told you that in Virginia, the way in which Democrats would rescue, frankly, one of their more difficult candidates for attorney general would be by pivoting towards the promise of redrawing maps, that would energize and galvanize electorate and flip, 13 state house seats along the way. You would have said I was crazy. And finally, Chris, in Maine, how many times have you and I been lectured by Republicans about how popular voter ID is? Well, voter ID was on the ballot in Maine and it got smoked. I mean, it lost by 20 points in Maine, which, as you know, is a kind of purple state. So there was a lot of democracy on the ballot last night, and democracy won.
The Republicans are going to sue to try to stop the California order. Do you think there's much to that lawsuit? What's your read on that?
They're going to lose. So just to be clear, California Republicans filed 2 cases already in the state Supreme Court, and the state Supreme Court didn't even wait for the state of California to answer before dismissing them. Then Ronnie Jackson, MAGA congressman from Texas, he filed a lawsuit in Matthew Kacsmarik's courthouse. As you know, Judge Kacsmarik is a
I love Amarillo this time of year.
Yeah, very conservative. He's oftentimes a place where if you're very conservative, you go to his courtroom and hope to get a hearing. Ronnie Jackson's lawsuit was dismissed, challenging the California map. Then Darrell Issa filed a lawsuit in the same courtroom in Texas, in Judge Kacsmarik's courtroom, and that was dismissed sua sponte. So this is actually now the 6th case that they have filed challenging the California map, and it will be the 6th defeat that Republicans will suffer.
The question of election, free and fair elections in this country, which is something that I think we feel like is under threat. And it's not just the gerrymandering, which is a kind of like gray area, quasi-legal, but essentially anti-democratic pooch, right? But even more heavy-handed things. The Department of Justice announces we're going to monitor, these election sites. They said that beforehand. Alina Habba was, ranting about that in New Jersey. The possibility of ICE agents being sent to, spook people at voting locations. The possibility of post-return litigation or actions by the Department of Justice. It's like last night, basically none of that happened. And I'm curious how you feel about that. To me, it's encouraging. It's kind of funny also that Donald Trump tacitly is like, yeah, we lost. I wasn't on the ballot. Don't look at me. As opposed to it was stolen. But then he was out there today being like, we need to end the filibuster so we can get national voter ID. So what do you make it?
Yeah. So look, Donald Trump's big lies have not gone away, and election denialism is still in full force in the Republican Party. And unfortunately, we're going to see it in the 2026 midterm elections. I think Donald Trump, and by the way, in the lead up to this election, remember, Donald Trump over the weekend said that there was already massive fraud in California. Yeah. And, he already, and the White House already said that they needed to clamp down and pass new executive orders. That's before the results even came in. I think this morning, Donald Trump woke up and had a choice. He could either claim that, 17-point defeats were actually the result of fraud, or he could just blame everyone else. And he went with blame everyone else. So I don't think that he's going to be able to do that in 2026 when it's Congress that's on the line, when it's curbing his power. As much as he likes to have Republicans in positions of power in governorships, it's not crucial to his power in the same way it is with Congress. So I expect we will see the full bag of tricks back for 2026.
Very good point. Mark Elias, thank you so much.